Yeah, and that's why we're sitting here.
Yeah. Well, I have some for that.
Sure you stand by the front door when people come in. Yes. But he, yeah. But he, not, not the same thing.
Good evening, everyone. If you could find your seats for me, please. Okay. I'm thankful to see so many smiling faces for the board meeting this evening. So if at first we could have a moment of reflection. Okay, and if you'll stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mrs. Renz, if you would read the guidelines for public comment, please.
The Anderson Community School Board of Trustees voted to adopt a revised, never mind. Strike that. I haven't done this in a while. I just need a little more practice. Meetings of the Anderson Community School Board of Trustees are open to the public in accordance with Indiana's open door law. Prior to the board meeting, members of the public can sign up to provide public comment. During the public comment portion of the meeting, the board president will call individuals signing up to the podium one at a time to speak. Speakers will be asked to state their name and address for the record prior to sharing their comments. Generally, each speaker shall not exceed 5 minutes to address the board and cannot give their minutes to anyone else. Public comments should be directed at the board and not individual board members. Shouting, loud statements, threats, name-calling, offensive language, or other improper conduct is not permitted. An employee speaking on matters involving his or her own individual employment matters will be reminded that ACSC has grievance and/or complaint procedures which have been designed and established to address those types of issues. Those processes provide a more thorough opportunity with greater time allocation, in which board members are allowed as a step in those processes. Comments concerning an individual employee's employment will be deferred to those processes. When appropriate, the board will refer questions to the superintendent. Some concerns may be addressed at that time. However, others may require further research to ensure the information provided is both accurate and complete. In those instances, the board or the member of the administration they designate will follow up with the individual sharing public comment to ensure their question or concern is properly addressed.
Okay, thank you. I officially call this meeting to order.
Thank you, Madam President. Board, you have received tonight's agenda in your mailings and in your packet. I have one additional item. You received some information from the Department of Education called Determining Meal Price for Adults. That needs an action from the board, so I would like to add that as option number 5 under board actions. With that amendment, I ask that you approve the agenda tonight.
Okay, a motion is in order for...
Move to approve with the addition of number 5 on the board actions.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any questions, comments from the board? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I have it unanimously.
Thank you. Also, you received in your packet the minutes from the July school board meeting. I ask that you approve those.
Okay, a motion, please, for that?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the
Sec-
July meeting.
Second.
All right, questions, comments from the board? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, ayes have it.
Thank you, school board. Tonight, for my superintendent's comments, I myself will be brief. You might be wondering what these fine pieces of hardware are down in front of me. And we should have brought last year's trophy, too, so we could compare. But this is the Anderson High School Marching Highlanders. So for the second year in a row, they were your State Fair Band Day champions. And for those of you, and I like, Mr. Geisler was quoted as saying something about the marching arts. So I like that, the marching arts. So for those of you that don't really follow the marching arts, winning the State Fair Band Day is like winning the state in any sporting event. It's a really, really big deal. And to win it twice in a row, and 3 times in the last handful of years, is absolutely amazing. So rather than hear me go on and sing the praises of the band, because as a former band guy, I can say quite a bit, because what those guys do in 5 or 6 weeks is just amazing. So Mr. Geisler, would you come up to the lectern and tell us how, trailing Muncie all season long, you crushed them by almost a point. Now, Miss Webb and I, were telling the band, we gave all of them a high five as they got on the bus and said, you got to crush Muncie. And they did. So they take instruction well, so.
Well, we appreciate the good sportsmanship. It's a fun activity that we do. The guys at Muncie are friends of ours. Their band director just retired, and the other band director just resigned too. So we made sure to shake hands and wish them well for the season. But yeah, our model of instruction is load it all up front at the start of the season and take the season to refine it and perfect it and get it as good as you can. I think our show had a lot of stuff built into it that once it got cleaned up, you were able to notice it at the night show, and it went well. We're pretty proud of the kids.
You want to let everybody know, I speak German, not French, so I'm not even going to try to mangle the French name of the show. So.
Well, I actually hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. The idea is a play off words off of the famous Canadian circus that it's called Cirque du Soleil. And we wanted to do a circus show, and I wasn't sure what to call it, so I just got on Google and I thought, what's the Scottish word for circus? And it was écossais, and it rhymes with soleil. I was like, all right, plans to line on that. That'd be a good title. So that's where that came from.
Excellent, excellent. And I will have to say, and this is why I'm not a band director, but when I first see some of the early stuff that you send me, I go, ooh, I don't know about that. And the more I go, ooh, I don't know about that, the better you guys do. So that's why you're there and I'm here. So, you have anybody else you want to come up and talk, give some
Mr.
thanks
Zaire,
to?
Mr. Robbins, you guys want to get on the microphone and have an opportunity to talk a little bit? I know we've got a drum major or two here as well. Ladies, if you guys would like to come up.
Well, thank you for inviting us tonight. I'd like to kind of point back to the sportsmanship that we have in this circuit. It's not very common that you get into, you know, a sporting activity or a band activity where really the track show association that we're a part of has this level of sportsmanship, whether it's Muncie, whether it's Ben Davis, Coke. I mean, really, we're all of the band directors, we're all friends, and, you know, at the end of the day, we shake hands, we enjoy the competition. In fact, we were standing with Muncie's band directors during the Day Show Awards, and we were congratulating each other and just have a good show tonight.
Congratulate each other right after they announced the caption awards.
Yeah.
Which is the smaller trophy, right?
Well, the plaques.
And the plaques, okay.
They won the visual caption.
Yeah, they won visual, and then we won the music and music GE. But I just want to say, you know.
That's general effect for you, non-marching arts people.
Exactly. I just want to say, you know, when they say it takes a village, that there is something to that. And, you know, while we're, you know, building the show and we're teaching the show, obviously the kids did a phenomenal job learning the work and really just buying into the character of the show. And we told them up front, this is the hardest show that we've done really in my time here. And they took that and they ran with it. But in addition to that, you know, the support that we get from our building leaders, from you guys, from the parents who build props, from the parents who feed our kids, there's so much that goes into having a successful season that's not just, you know, the first place at the end of it. So I really want to thank you guys. I want to thank our building leaders, and I want to thank our parents for the amazing amount of work that they put into this summer.
I believe I heard something like 200 hours that of work that you've put in on this over 5 weeks.
So yeah, I added up. You know, we have a couple of weeks of preseason, April, May, and then yeah, the 6 weeks of the summer was a little over 200 hours of practice for the kids. So
Wow. Did your drum majors? They look nervous, and I always like to have nervous people talk.
So we have Heidi Hall. She's a senior at Anderson High School, and we have Mary Lee Morris, and you're a junior this year? Yeah, junior this year. They both served as our drum majors this season. They were phenomenal. The number of tempo changes they had to get throughout the show, this may be a record for us, and it really takes a student of a high musical caliber to be able to lead the other students on that. So yeah, I thought let's put them on the microphone. Let them talk for it. This is Heidi. Heidi, come on up. Any questions for Heidi, Dr. Gronk?
Show me how to direct 5/4. Now, I showed her.
There you go.
Okay, I'll accept it. So, tell me about your experience with being a drum major. And I have a story about a drum major that I will not tell, back when I was in school. But how was it? How did it feel to lead the whole band out there?
It was an amazing experience. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I got to watch from a distance, see the whole show being put together. I got to go with individual sections and watch them improve throughout the season. And that's something I didn't really get before as, you know, just a flute player. So being able to lead this band has been such an honor, and I'm really glad that Mr. Geisler and Mr. Zaire gave me the opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who's the other drum major now? Who's the other drum major?
We have Mary Lee Morris. She's a junior.
Yes.
And what's her instrument?
She's our other drum major.
Before
what's
I
her
was
instrument?
drum major, I played percussion.
Yes. I might have known that, since I had to bring that up.
Yes, you know, I just want to say, like, having these trophies is amazing, but I want to express that just because we have the trophies, that doesn't measure our success. Measuring our success is improving. So just being able to learn the music and grow with the music and play it well, that is a successful season, not the trophies.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well said.
I know you guys are tired, so we won't keep you around, but you want to bring everybody that you brought with you down here, and we'll take a picture with the board,
You're part of that marching band. Come
with
on
all
up.
the hardware that's here.
A lot of them.
We may need to push the chairs back and sort of gather. We'll see what Brad has to, Brad will guide us here. Actually, why don't we come around? Brad's telling us to come around.
All right. Get that big trophy.
Not every day you get to pose with the trophy. All right, as the band leaves, I just want to say we've had a really good opening to our school year. Everything is going really well. Cell phones are going much better than anyone ever thought they could. So things are going well. We're 4 days in now, so that's, I just want to thank everybody for a good start of the year. And Madam President, that's the end of my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Crunk. For board president's comments, I did want to remind the ACS staff of the 2 town halls coming up, and that is in regards to, we want to hear from you in regards to the superintendent search. So the town halls dedicated to the ACS staff will be August 24th at 4 p.m. at AHS. And the second one will be September 3rd at 6 p.m. at AIS. So and all that information is on the website, and Brad has flyers over there. And then, of course, you can reach out to any of us if you forget in the meantime, but those are important to us, and we want to hear from you. Also, Saturday, this past Saturday, there was a community celebration, and I believe that was hosted by Madison County Credit Union, right? Okay. Yep. So I went, and it was so fun. They had animals. My granddaughter got her first pony ride, which she was extremely excited about. Our D26 students helped with hot dogs, and I believe there was a $3,000 donation made to AEF, Anderson Education Foundation. So that's huge. Thank you to them. And I think that's all I have, unless I missed anything. I don't think so. Okay. All right. So next is comments from patrons, and we do have a few people signed up. One thing I wanted to mention was we are also later on in the meeting going to be speaking about cell phones. And so if there is anyone that signed up that wanted to speak on cell phones, you are more than welcome to do that now, or you can wait until we actually have that, that brought up on our agenda and have a discussion. So totally up to you. With that said, the first, let's see, sign up is Avriel Johnson and Natasha Burks. Okay. And if you could just state your name and the address that you're comfortable with, and try to keep it at 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Avriel Johnson, Anderson, Indiana.
Natasha Burks, Anderson, Indiana.
So good evening, everyone. So we are here again today. First off, I thought that was amazing to see the band here, and listening to the directors talk about it takes a village. That warms my heart. And I think that that's truly a teachable moment for us, because it truly takes a village. And that's why, I mean, we really want to continue to press forward and to make sure that I see that we're going to talk about the discipline matrix and cell phone policies later on. The goal and hope was that before today that we would have been able to meet again with the board to discuss the next steps in that policy. And so we do look forward to hopefully still to have some of those discussions. I'm not sure if there was another meeting that took place during the time, because per the last board meeting that parents would have the opportunity to meet with the board before today's meeting. So that was one of the concerns. And I mean, yes, I definitely would like to hear what the, we're using this time to hear what the additional matrix, like how those changes will take place and what will happen with the cell phone policy. So hopefully we'll have that opportunity to kind of reflect after that's presented to us.
Thank you. She kind of said what I was going to kind of address. Just in addition to that, just looking forward to our continued partnership as we come together to meet, to move forward on some of the things that we still have some questions about as we're at the beginning of the year, looking forward to a very successful and positive year, as well as just kind of seeing how things will maneuver around. So we ask that you would please give attention to our request, and we would love to continue to work together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next I have Mary Baker. Hi, Mary.
Good evening. Mary Baker, Budisa, 1236 Flat Rock Drive in Anderson, Indiana. I'm here to speak about something that I've brought up before, and I'm bringing it up again because I want to make sure that that not just I have clarity, but I think everyone who attended any of the town halls, anyone who has been here before or is listening online, that we get some clarity around what the current board and current administration's intent is as far as engaging parents and making sure that there's involvement. I'm so pleased to see the band, you know, doing so well, and I know that parent involvement there really matters and has made a difference over the years because I was a band mom myself. We didn't bring home a state championship when my kids were, but it's okay. I still love the band, and I think that that's really a testament to, as Avriel said, and she was being very diplomatic and saying, you know, we hope we'll be in conversations going forward. But I have a concern that we keep saying, or we keep hearing the board saying, we keep hearing, you know, in the strategic plan and these other places that parents are going to be involved in conversations, but conversations seem to fall off very quickly. And I'll give you an example. So I know that They have both been here at multiple meetings asking about concerns for their students, but also asking to be involved in rethinking the matrix because of some of the developmental concerns and other things that we've raised. I think that others of us have raised that a lot of the language and a lot of the way that these things are being developed mimics the prison system. I mean, you're having a widespread impact on students, and especially students of color who are making up a large portion of this district, nearly half. And I think we really have to consider what the long-term implications are for having discipline matrices that look like this. But when there was a meeting at Sherman Street, and some of these kids are from the program there, and I see Benita Holbert there, that was arranged to come and talk to us about the cell phone policy. And I'll say that what I heard there was some of the same language that mimics a little bit of incarceration language, talking about probable cause and, reasonable cause to search someone. And these policies, if we get it in our minds that they are this way, then it's a problem. But one of the things that Mr. Scheimer and Mr. Bunnell talked about, and I think this is the first of many meetings, right? I think it was a good meeting. But what I don't understand is when we're told that there are people and parents who are informing the handbook committee, parents who have been involved in the conversations about why the original cell phone policy discipline matrix was horrible, that there are people talking about walking it back. Who are those parents? Why aren't they the parents that have already stepped up for months and asked to be involved? Or why are they disconnected from that process now? And then how is a decision to be made? We were told it was going to be last Monday, and that Tuesday everyone would have the information, so that I don't know if I missed where that was trickling out to, or if it only went to parents on Parent Square. But I think those are the things that we would like for the board to be transparent about. During the town hall meetings, you asked us, what do we want from superintendent? What do we want from the board? And everything that I heard said, we want more transparency, we want more opportunities to be involved, and we want for you to communicate with us. So I'm asking today, again, that when you say parent involvement, when you say you really want to know what we think or want us to be a part of the process, then follow through with that. If you choose other parents, other community members, and it's not the people that are in this room, okay, but be transparent about that. Say we selected them through this, or we've had a committee that we convened and that committee stays with us from this month to that month. We don't get any of that. So it's not that I don't believe you, but I don't have any reason to believe you because what I'm seeing is not consistent with what you're saying or what you're asking for. And that's a part of your strategic plan that was developed by this administration. It's a part of what you put forth as the things that you want and the things that you're promising to us. And I just don't see that because I was very surprised to hear that this decision is going to be made again and it's just going to be released, and these parents knew nothing about it. And I can tell you other parents that have been here before, they didn't know about it either. So I just want you as a board, I want anyone who's on any board to live up to what they tell people they are going to do and to deliver on that. So if you could give some clarity around who it is that's been involved in making this decision and walking things back and re-looking at them, because if you come to a conclusion and you have people at the table who understand why you've done what you've done, then you have a group of people who can share and spread the word to others. That's not happening because the only people we're hearing it from are the people that sit around this table. And in communities of color, who's coming into those communities to talk to people and can be trusted? And that's another piece of, I think, why when we don't see diversity here and we hear a lot of lip service to some things, that it starts to really feel like this is the community that doesn't matter. And this is the one that does. So I just wanted to be completely honest about that and say it again. You'll get tired of me hearing it, but I'm going to keep saying it because I think it's important. And if nobody else is able to make the meetings because of the timing or whatever, then I want to be able to at least say that because I think it's important. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Okay. Mary, if you and I could talk very quickly after this meeting, please. Okay, next up is Perry Washington.
Perry Washington, 2109 Atwood Drive, Anderson, Indiana. And I'm here to talk about the referendum, number one, and what observations that I have made. And I'm dealing with data. You know, I keep telling you guys, in God we trust and data all else. Anderson enrollment for the 25-26 year was 6,181 students. I look at funds that came in, and I look at your overhead. And your overhead is non-value added. It's non-value added. It's burden. And that burden is 32.5% of the budget, which is ridiculous. I'm looking at your facilities. And you have facilities to accommodate over 10,000 students. That is absolute waste because you're paying light bills, maintenance, and on and on. And it's unexcusable. You can take the administration building this facility and you could move it to Highland or some of these schools that you're not even using and use them to full capacity. Sell these properties. You're asking for money, sell them. Stop paying taxes on, stop paying light bills, gas bills, maintenance, sell them. And put that money into your classrooms. Not only that, Title I. Title I is a component, and a very important thing in Title I is to get intervention and family engagement. Every last one of these town hall meetings I've went to and on and on. And I've talked to a number of people all around the city where the kids are going to different schools. And I said, you guys have a PTO or PTA or getting involved with the school? No, 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 no. Have you been contacted? Some people that have kids there and they have questions and don't feel welcome. That is a component of Title I. I made a call today to Ms. Storm. I didn't get an answer. I didn't get a call back. I wanted that breakdown to try to see how many meetings had been held at each one of these schools, and I haven't got that information as of yet. I didn't get a call back either. It's amazing the funding that you're getting. Title I, you've got $3,643,444.82 in Title I. Not only that, now Title II is for teachers, development. The development of these teachers so that they can teach our kids properly, for the outreach to those students that need it. And I must remind you that Anderson Community School is 52% black and brown. Some of these kids cannot even relate to it because they never see anybody that looks like them or qualified. because you're not hiring. Why? Why? I look at the protocols at some of the positions that you have filled, and your HR has not done a good job. You tell me, well, we've got this committee, and those committees are looking at these people that are coming in. Well, I got problems with that. HR should be doing a good job of following the protocols, and not only that, making sure that we have qualified individuals with experience that can do the job, or those that we can bring in and give them some of this Title II money and train them. And they should be doing that because they're hurting our kids. I'm going to mention it again. You're number 291 out of 293 school districts. You're at the very bottom. Not only that, your administration and your leadership should have been looking at the things that I'm looking at and taking those dollars and putting them in where they belong. You're not going to get better doing the same things that you've been doing at the bottom of the heap. And it doesn't just, and the deal is, what it is, I can't imagine why it don't disturb you. The board has the leadership that governs. And I have mentioned in these town hall meetings that we've had that you have the power. And if you feel that you're short in not understanding some of these things that can make this system better, you have the power to put an advocacy board and get some people that understand each one of those topics and each one of those elements to make a successful school system. Get them involved, because you can make sure that you have these people to support you. I'm not saying know everything, but where you're short, your scores are showing it. So your governing board really haven't done a good job. I don't know who's been advising you and who's been training you, but they're not doing a very good job. And that has to change. You can't continue doing the same things and expecting for it to change. It's just getting worse. Not only that, I'm looking at Title I, Title II, and a lot of the other monies. Anderson, you're not right-sizing. You're not right-sizing. You're catering to a lot of non-value-added things that you don't need. You got a school, you got enrollments of 6,000 students, and you're capacitized for 10 with your buildings and your overhead. Put the money in the classroom so you can retain and hire great teachers, and retain them. And also invest in curriculums to get your scores up. It not only hurts the kids, it hurts the city of Anderson. When people come in and look at this city and says, well, you've got water, you got natural gas, let's look at your HR. Let's look at your human resources coming out. And they don't look at the other schools that you have, they look at the public schools and say, oh, I'm looking at you, you're at the bottom of the heap. Another Gary, Indiana. If you enjoy being waddling down there, you're hurting us. And not only that, You're asking for a referendum, you're asking for another $2.9 million for another 8 years, you're crazy.
Mr.
Because it has not benefited us at all. And not only that, we have schools all around you that are better than you. And people who can drive their kids, it's a competition thing. That's why your enrollment is going down, because people who can drive and bring their kids here and bring them there that are outdoing you, they do it. But we have a lot of parents that cannot do that. And again, that number is, we have 52% of Anderson Community Schools that is actually black and brown. But you have a lot of people that you're bringing in, and I should say, they were not the most qualified, because I looked them up. And you're putting me in here, and they drive out of Anderson, Indiana, every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. All right. Okay, we're going to try to keep this at 5 minutes. Next up is Miss Alunda Hunt.
Good evening. Olanda K. Hunt, O-L-U-N-D-A, middle initial K, H-U-N-T, reside in Anderson, Indiana. I have a couple of things real quick. The first one is the school bus. My grandson has special needs, and this year I'm not going through this mess with the school bus. They're supposed to pick him up in front of my house and drop him off. They are refusing to. Last year, the reason why I didn't get into it with them, because of course we have DCS involved. This year, I'm not doing that. My neighbor down the street, I just saw her today. Her daughter is in a motorized wheelchair. She's driving behind her daughter with her flashers on because they are refusing to drop her off in front of her house. That needs to change before Wednesday, because I'm not going through this. And like I told her, she shouldn't have to go through it. But she's afraid to come because she works for ACS, and she's afraid of the retaliation. But I told her I would come and speak on her behalf. Her son and my grandson ride the school bus home too. And again, they are dropping them off at the corner of Pricewood Court and Columbus Avenue. And like I tried to explain to the lady at Anderson Transit that they are special needs, she basically said she was going to call the police if I call up there one more time. I'm to the point, call them, because the policy is they drop off in front of our homes and pick up in front of our homes. Now, what they're going to say is our street is too small. That's bull. I followed a couple buses last year. They were on my mom's street. Her street is more narrow than mine. And they went around the block to pick the kids up. They picked them up and went around the block and exited the addition. We have a turnaround at the very end. And then, like my brother said, they're supposed to know how to do a 3-point turn. We have fire trucks, ambulances, FedEx, UPS all day long that come down our street, and garbage trucks, and they have no problem. So our bus system should have a problem with that. The second thing is, as Ms. Mary and the other young ladies have stated, transparency, and just like Mr. Washington said, the parent and engagement. I have yet to hear that they're going to do a PTA at Southview. Last year, I didn't know anything about it. Now that I am aware of it, are we going to have a PTA at Southview? Because I would like to be involved. And due to the nature of what I'm going through with DCS, I definitely want to be involved so I can help other parents who have that issue. And the last thing that irritates my soul, because I came up with 3 high schools, Anderson High School, Madison Heights, and Highland. They all had their own name. Now that we're in a new era with a new band, With the new school, they are not the marching Highlanders. It should go back to the marching Indians. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Cronk, did you want to address?
Ms. Hunt, if you want to, on your transportation issues, if you want to talk to Mr. Bunnell, he's the Director of Transportation, and he can help you out. On Southview, they don't start till Wednesday, so I'll talk to Mrs. Muir, the principal, and see what's going on.
Okay, that's all that I have for comments, public comments. So next on the agenda is Anderson Federation of Teachers.
Good evening, everyone. I am Myron Taylor. I'm not Randy Harrison. I'm Myron Taylor. I'm the Vice President of the AFT for secondary. And so board members, cabinet members, and guests here, I would like to first thank you for allowing us our time. Few things I just want to kind of go through that we've kind of worked on as an AFT leadership team. And first, I know we've heard it a lot, but I do want to also congratulate the band for that championship. As I actually shared with Mr. Geisler and Mr. Zaire, because I was there in the crowd, this was more than just a championship. If you had seen the actual production and what those kids did, and then on top of that, being in the crowd, ours, I would guarantee, was the only band that basically got a standing ovation from every person in that audience. You know, Muncie would cheer for Muncie, Winchester cheers for Winchester, and every now and then you get a few more people. But when Anderson's band finished, the entire stadium erupted. And I've been doing band my whole life, and it gave me goosebumps because they did that well. So I just want to make sure that, again, we really understand just how well they did. As one of the drum majors says, it wasn't even about the championship. They had an amazing performance. As an AFT leadership team, we also would like to thank everyone for the smooth start of this school year, especially as we've rolled out this cell phone policy. Now, I'm at Highland, and I will tell you, I personally thought it was going to be a nightmare. I didn't know what was going to happen. It has been amazingly smooth. The kids, our principal calls it teachable moment. So those first few days, we just simply make sure, hey, you understand, this is where it goes and everything, and it has been working. So again, we want to thank everybody for the smooth start. Something I want to make sure that everybody understands too is that we are still monitoring class sizes very closely, and we are going to ask that the ACS administration move as quickly as possible in rectifying any of those class sizes that are excessive. And I understand you've got things in the work, but we just ask that you make that happen as fast as possible. And in that same manner, we're also monitoring some areas in special education, the caseloads that are starting to become excessive as well. So again, we are going to ask that the administration be ready to alleviate those problems as they are presented. And again, I understand there are plans in the work, but we're just asking for that to happen as quickly as possible. And now, if I may just take a point of personal privilege, I want to brag about ACS and my firsthand experience. I've had 3 kids go through. My son just graduated last year. He's moving into Ball State. It's the last one. He's leaving us, all that. So I got online to make sure that we didn't still have fees or whatever, and I knew he had a lot of credits. And Dr. Cronk, I'd mentioned to you, it's actually more because some of his IU credits hadn't transferred. He has 62 credits. He is starting and is classified as a junior at Ball State.
Yeah.
Now listen, I'm very proud of my son, and I believe that my wife and I are good parents. But I will tell you, there's no way that happens any place other than this place right here. That is the only way it happens. And I will also tell you this, it's not just my son. Any of you who were involved with the top 20 graduates as they did some of their ceremonies and things, the amount of credits that those kids earn, it's just beyond belief. And let me say this, some people say, well, that's just, for academics and everything. Well, my son was also in Boy Scouts, and so he made some good friends, and a lot of those friends, including one who's on this poster right here, got all sorts of certifications and qualifications at D26. Again, not going to happen anywhere else. So I feel like I need to shout from the rooftop sometimes just how wonderful this place is. Do we have some issues? Absolutely, yes. But I guarantee you, there's no place I would rather have had my kids go than Anderson Community Schools. And again, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go a little bit longer. I want to say this because I want to actually give some specific shout outs, again, from a personal standpoint. My son, when he was in kindergarten, he was a very smart little kid, but he was very socially awkward. He was, and I hope he's not watching, sorry. But he was, and he had anxiety through the roof. Well, Christy Goen was his kindergarten teacher. She did some special reading things with him because she knew he was an advanced reader, but what she really taught him was, hey, rather than breaking down every time something doesn't work for you, let's figure out how to problem solve, right? A kindergarten teacher saw that in a kid. Yeah, he's smart, that's great, but he's struggling. So she taught him that. Then when he got to second grade, Mrs. Carol Phillips continued working on the problem solving, but also made it for him to understand it's okay just to be who he is. He didn't have to fit in. Again, that's great that he's a smart kid, but he's not going to succeed in school if he didn't have teachers like that. When he got, so the high ability program, he had to move schools to a different building. So he was at E2, and he struggled. He really struggled. Val Scott was the principal, and she saw the struggle in this young man. And she did so many things that just helped him to figure out how to school. And again, I want to brag about, yes, he's got all those credits, but that would not have happened had Val Scott not stepped in that really trying year. Nick Levere did the same thing in 7th grade for science. That was in the height of COVID. And you're talking about a kid who's already, like I said, he made it okay, and he kind of explained the science behind a whole lot of that stuff, and in a way that made sense to him. Now, some people say, well, that's because you work at the schools and they know you. Well, let me talk about Mrs. Cynthia Jackson. I knew her. She did not know that he was my son. So she was working in the cafeterias and the hallways at Highland. She noticed that at lunch, he would just go off and sit by himself. He didn't have friends. And she starts talking to me about this boy. I had no idea she was talking about my kid. But she said, you know, hey, I found this kid, and I'm going to work on some friends for him. And she actually went out of the way to try and help him fill. And then she saw him later after school with me, and she goes, oh, that's your baby? Yeah, that's mine. But again, you know, that's not going to happen. And then let's talk about the high school. This is where those credits, well, actually in our place, you know, you can start getting some of those earlier. But let's talk about the high school. So Dr. Davis at one point had this great idea, right? And then we had Mr. Scheimer also put it part of it, and then Mr. Landis right here, so that they call it, was it Anderson High University? I want to make sure. So that these credits can be earned by our kids. And as a father who's going to pay for his college, knowing that he's starting as a junior, let me tell you, that's important. That is important. And so he had some teachers there too, that now that he's old enough that he's really academically minded, sorry, I get excited because this is so, I'm excited about this place, I'm sorry. David Perrell with physics, and just really opened his eyes to all the possibilities. And then Mr. Z, the wonderful math teacher, took him on a calculus competition as a junior. He was the only junior on the team. Also the first time he'd ever flown on a plane, so he was a little nervous about that, but went to Clemson for that. It was amazing, an amazing experience. And then the one that really meant the most was Rebecca Herman. All things computer, all things, and that's what he's going to major in now. It just turned him. He was thinking about physics, but once he got in her class with some of the networking and all that, brought it to life for him. So I'm just telling you, there are amazing things. You have to be involved as a parent. We didn't sit back like in some of those years I said he struggled. We didn't just sit back. We got in there. We got in there. We had to be a part of it. But you're not going to find a better school corporation in our area. I don't care what everybody else says. You're not going to find it. So again, thank you for allowing me to put my own 2 cents in with our AFT minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor, your son's going to stay at Ball State?
Yes.
What hall?
The one they just renamed, and I don't remember the name of it.
It's never the one I stayed in, so never mind.
Oh.
I can't ever find anyone
None
that
of
stays
those
in Palmer
buildings are
Hall.
there anymore, Dr. Cronk. They're all long gone.
What, the dinosaurs tore them down? Is it?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. All right, now we're ready for board actions. Okay, Mr. Elmore.
Thank you, Madam President. And members of the board, I would like to direct your attention to the financial report located in your board packet for the approval of the monthly claims for the month of July. These are all the purchases that the school corporation and food service department have made in the last month. They have been properly reviewed and approved by the appropriate channels, and I submit these claims for your approval through Resolution R-2026-29.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the financial report.
Second.
Second. Okay, questions, comments from the board? All right, by roll call vote, Mr. Chamberlain?
Aye.
I myself, Mrs. Renz?
Aye.
Mrs. Collette?
Aye.
Mr. Bookhart?
Aye.
Mrs. Green?
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Dietz. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't change that.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right.
Oh, that is totally my bad. I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
Mr. Scheimer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, teachers, administrators, and members of the public attending tonight's meeting. In tonight's Human Resources Report, we have Resolution 2026-30, which is the recommendation of the monthly consent agenda addressing personnel recruitments, leave of absence, retirements, and resignation agreements. Thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you. All right, do we have a motion to put on the table for the Human Resources Report?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All right, questions, comments, concerns from the board? All right, by roll call vote, Mrs. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Bookhart?
Aye.
Mrs. Collette?
I'm going to vote aye, but I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
It's very sad to see the resignation of Cortland Peters. The board doesn't have to accept the resignation because he's resigning, but I wanted to let him and the public know we will miss him. So aye.
Okay, Mrs. Renz?
Aye.
I myself, Mr. Chamberlain?
Aye.
All right, ayes have it. Okay, Mrs. McCord.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, in your packet, you will find field trips and conference leave requests. All have been properly reviewed, approved, and their funding sources identified. I request your approval of the items in the accompanying resolution, R-2026-31.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for field trips and conference leaves?
Move to approve.
Second.
Second. Okay, questions, comments, concerns from the board? All right, by roll call vote, Mr. Chamberlain?
Aye.
I myself, Mrs. Renz?
Aye.
Mrs. Collette?
Aye.
Mr. Bookhart?
Aye.
Mrs. Green?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay, Mr. Bennell?
All right. I know that they usually say something like they save the best for last, but we're in a deep-seated state of denial if we're to that point with me coming here this evening. But first of all, I do want to congratulate the band on their victory. Another round of applause for them. Yeah. Having been a building administrator in another corporation where you've won the state title, I'm a little bit jealous of Alan. I know that we used to march in open class with ISMA in Class C and D, and so having an opportunity to wear that ring and to get that ring at the end of the season is always nice. So my congratulations to those teachers and to those kids on a job well done, and we have high expectations of them doing a three-peat going into next year then as well. So that being said, Ms. Hunt, if you will also catch up with me after the meeting, I'd like to address your transportation issue. And then, Mary, I appreciate the camouflage. I don't know that I look as good in it, but you still, it's a very nice camouflage. So I'm a little bit jealous. In my other job, I wear a lot of it. So that being said, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Shay Bonnell. I'm the Director of Student Services and Transportation for Anderson Community Schools. What I have to share with you this evening, board, I have a more condensed version of the presentation that I gave you earlier, but I will kind of go over the wave tops and the highlights so that we can kind of revisit exactly kind of where we are at in terms of our discipline matrices as well as the cell phone policy that I'll be asking the board to adopt yet this evening. Also, too, and if we have time, I'll get into it. If not, I know there's some stuff to add as far as threat assessments are concerned, which is a little bit mundane. So if we approve it tonight, great. I won't go into great detail with it unless there are more specific questions. In the meantime, I'd like to focus my time on as far as the disciplinary matrix and the cell phone policy. So when we were tasked with developing discipline policy, I know that not only with our cell phone policy, but with all of our policies as far as this year is concerned, we were able to get a significant amount of input from a lot of different sources, parents, students. We had the AFT was kind enough to provide their executive committee to then in turn participate in our handbook committee. We had some other administrators and folks that provided a lot of constructive feedback in terms of getting us where we needed to be. But along with the guidance that we had given to the handbook committee, some guidance that I wanted to share this evening, not only with you folks, but for kind of the general public as a whole, when it comes to working with building administrators in terms of learning how to maintain good order and discipline in their buildings and keeping kids safe, but at the same time finding that balance when things can be a teachable moment and a learning experience. We seize upon that. Again, coming from a background where there's a lot of acronyms in my other job as a National Guardsman in the Army, you learn to develop acronyms so that you can kind of help to express concepts in a very concise way. And when it comes to maintaining good order and discipline in buildings and helping kids learn teachable moments and experiences, I utilize the acronym COFFEE, and the COFFEE represents some of those things that I consider to be important, having done this type of job for, going on 23 years. What's important when you're wanting to make things, teachable moments and learning experiences for kids. And as you can see there, that COFFEE acronym, making things consistent, making things objective, developing firm, fair, enforceable, and equitable consequences, so to speak, as far as good discipline is concerned, and not necessarily making it punishment, so to speak. So I want to give the board some assurance that as we develop these policies and we continue to refine these policies, we took very much a COFFEE approach towards what we've got to present for you this evening. And again, as I constantly harp at the building administrators in the district, making sure that what we do is firm, fair, consistent, and equitable across the board. So let's just get right into it. I know that it's getting late, and I know folks are wanting to know what the rest of the school year looks like. So without further ado, we'll talk a little bit about what the ACS cell phone policy will look like, and then we'll talk a little bit about how that impacts our disciplinary matrix across the board. What I would like to talk real briefly, and again, what we talked about in executive session, the cell phone policy is going to derive from Senate Enrolled Act 78, which was passed in the last legislative session. It was a short session, so that timeline looked where that policy was really refined probably late March, was then signed by Governor Braun, and then was actioned or was sent to the DOE to be actioned as far as the schools were concerned to develop further and refined guidance in terms of what the policy was to look like and what some of the nuances of that policy were to be reflected in as far as student handbooks are concerned. So as you get to digging into Senate Enrolled Act 78, I had an opportunity to do so. It's not a very long document. It was about 5 pages long, but it provided a great deal of insight and some very specific legal doctrinal terms that I think need to be reflected in the policy that we implement yet this evening. So I'll start with one of those things. It was the school day, where Senate Enrolled Act was very specific about what the school day meant. The entirety of the time a student is present in school, on school property for a student instructional day. And there at the bottom, you can see where Anderson Community Schools, by virtue of having established morning and afternoon hours from when school starts and when school ends, you can see here, this is what our school day, as far as Anderson Community Schools is concerned, what it looks like. For our K-6 buildings, 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., 9 a.m. being that morning bell, the 3:30 p.m. being the afternoon bell. And then for our 7-12 buildings, 7:30 a.m. is when that morning bell starts the school day. And then the end bell, the afternoon bell, that last bell that ends the school day, transpires at 2:30 in the afternoon. Additionally, what Senate Enrolled Act had tasked school corporations and specifically boards with doing was mandating one of these following policies that you have listed there as far as letter A and letter B is concerned. And what the guidance that was given in the task was either adopt a policy where it says you can have absolutely no cell phones whatsoever on the school property, or B, you develop a storage protocol by which your school buildings figure out schools or kids are going to bring cell phones to school. What do we do with the cell phones in terms of storing them during the school day as outlined above? And the recommendation that I have this evening will kind of outline the policy that relates more to the storage protocol rather than a complete ban as far as cell phones are concerned. Additionally, Senate Enrolled Act was 78 was very specific about what a school-sanctioned wireless communication device was concerned. And you can see up here what that criteria actually looks like. The big major muscle movements with these points were being approved by the school for instructional use and is required or permitted by the school for participation in classroom instruction, The other big one is number 4, where it talks a little bit about student safety and security as it applies to IT networks, filters, firmware, things of that nature. And then also number 5, that wireless communication device that's used by the school is not classified as a cellular telephone, a gaming device, or a smartwatch. And the last point that I'll make here too, and again, it's specific to Senate Enrolled Act 78, a smartwatch is considered any device that's connected to a cellular telephone. So if I'm wearing my watch and I have my phone over here, if it is interfaced with that device, that is considered to be a smartwatch. If I have a device on my wrist that then also connects to a cell tower where it would receive a cell signal, that is considered to be a smartwatch as well. And then finally, if it is connected to the internet by which it's receiving Wi-Fi or broadband, it would be classified as a smartwatch as well. So as you will see here with Senate Enrolled Act, 78 words have meaning. They're very specific about what they mean and what the operational definition is connected to them with. What the school corporations in the state of Indiana, as well as this one, and what the board is tasked with also doing, is making sure that the policy that is adopted and implemented does not prohibit a student from using the device during the school day if the device does any one of the following 5 things. The first one, for those students with disabilities, a student that has an individualized education plan, if outlined in that education plan, the task and purpose for that wireless device is clearly outlined. That is something by which then the student with a disability in their IEP is allowed to then utilize that wireless device. Additionally, if you have a student that requires some medical accommodations, as outlined under Section 504 of the 1973 Rehabilitation Act, in our line of work, we simply refer to it as a 504. If there is a medical accommodation by which that student requires access to the device, that's something that can also be written into the student's 504 plan by which the student is then allowed access during the school day. Number 3, and it kind of dovetails into what I just made mention of as far as number 2 is concerned, if a healthcare provider is able to document the fact that the student has a medical condition that would necessitate the use of like a handheld device. I know that several students that have diabetes will usually have a sensor on their person someplace, and then they access an app that would be on their cell phone in order to measure their blood sugar. That's something that would be an appropriate use of a wireless communication device during the school year, or school day, I should say. Let me come back to number 4, because I know number 4 has been probably a major concern for a lot of key stakeholders and a lot of communities as it relates to Senate Enrolled Act 78. But with number 5, for those students where English is a second language for them, relying on a device in order to provide some level of translative service, again, if that's something that's built into their language plan, it would be appropriate for that student to have access to that device in order to translate from their native language into English. I'll go back to number 4 because I know in a lot of instances parents send their kids to school with cell phones so that they may be able to contact them in the event of an emergency. Senate Enrolled Act 78 affords for that provision in terms of students accessing their wireless communications devices in the event that the superintendent or the superintendent's designee were to declare a school emergency in order to, transmit messages or to contact parents or what have you. Moving on here then, I want to show what we have been publishing for quite some time now as we've started to formulate what this policy looked like. I know that I had an opportunity to meet with the folks at Sherman Street. This was the same thing that we had published and advertised that evening. So what we will find this evening for the board's consideration, and I will certainly work on the wordsmithing, but what we will find in the policy, hopefully that we will be able to adopt this evening, is the policy by which we do bring cell phones to school. We have a storage protocol. We clearly outline which devices are prohibited. Additionally, we outline what is technically considered bell-to-bell for us, as outlined in my previous slide, where it talks about what our school hours are listed depending on the grade level. And then also, where it's not specifically listed in Senate Enrolled Act 78, but it allows for some leeway. What I've learned as an administrator is when you're dealing with school law, if it's not specifically outlined, then you find what you need to in terms of meeting the spirit, intent, and purpose of the law. Point being is this, is we focus a lot on wireless devices. Well, in this case, the exceptions would be wired headphones that would then be able to plug into a Chromebook, by which if we adjust the settings just right, working with our IT department, we may be able to address some of those concerns that would be outlined in a student's IEP or a 504 and things of that nature. And additionally, as we've made mention of, bell to bell. So we're talking about the morning bell by which the instructional day starts. We're talking about the afternoon bell by which the instructional day ends. Anything outside of those two items are not considered to be part of the school day, which means kids can bring their phones on the bus. They can use it on the bus. Once the bell rings as they get on the bus, they can use their cell phones at that point. They can use them during extracurricular activities after school, before school. They can use them at clubs. They can use them at sporting events, what have you. The law itself is very specific as far as bell-to-bell is concerned, and the policy will clearly outline what that looks like in terms of the hours of operation for our instructional day. That being said, I will pause here for just a moment. What we've added to our disciplinary matrix as a matter of guidance from the DOE, as a matter of trying to meet the purpose and intent of Senate Enrolled Act 78. I want to be very specific and deliberate about what our proposed policy would look like in terms of cell phone usage and cell phone violations. What we have here is I have it broken out into 3 different matrices specific to the cell phone policy. I've got it where we also will be having a disciplinary matrix that I will show later this afternoon or this evening specific to K-6. I know that we've decided to make a K-6 matrix to move away from a K-5 matrix. Additionally, I've got some publications to make here this evening that would outline a 7th and 8th grade, not only a cell phone policy as it applies to 7th and 8th grade, but also a disciplinary matrix as a whole that will be specific to Highland Middle School, and then also the cell phone policy as it will pertain to Anderson High School. So the gist of this and the takeaway from that, I also have copies of this available for anybody that would like to see it this evening. The long and short of it, you'll see some universal truths. You'll see some uniformity in some aspects and some nuance of the policy itself. And one of those being, especially with the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th incident, not only is the cell phone being confiscated and secured in the front office, but the parents are contacted and the parents are then required to come and pick up that wireless communication device. Our job here and our intent is not to make that a certain sense of inconvenience as much as it's an opportunity for communication. That is an opportunity for us to engage in meaningful dialogue with our constituents, with our community members, and those folks that have a direct impact on how to best manage that wireless communication device as it pertains to coming to school. And that's where we have that dialogue. We engage in conversation about what we can do in the future to mitigate the risk that comes with violating school policy as it relates to the cell phone. Okay. That being said, with each part of the policy, you will find that where we have kind of snapped the chalk line is finding that differentiation between teachable moment, learning experience, and now we have discovered that this is kind of where we're now talking about a pretty methodical act of defiance as far as on the part of the student, to which, as I've outlined in some of the other matrices this evening, you'll be able to see what that defiance and insubordination consequence will look like, because it is going to be different in each of our buildings. So I'll pause for just a second, so if anybody's wanting to take pictures or wanting to look at this, kind of take it in. Okay, so moving right along, I want to talk real quick about the disciplinary matrices then this evening. Each of the matrices have been, I'll pause here for just a second. Each of our matrices.
And Mr. Bunnell, if the board approves this tonight, this will be published tomorrow morning, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I can talk about what the actionable item is once the policy is approved from there, and kind of give a broad overview of what happens from there. Disciplinary matrices that I would like to share this evening, again, they're in the handout. We've now designed 3 matrices, or have refined 3 matrices. Our first matrice is now K-6 versus K-5. Our second matrice will be for Highland Middle School, specific to 7th and 8th grade, and then our matrice for 9-12 as it relates to Anderson High School. What I won't do, I won't go over all the blood and guts and tails and feathers over every aspect, but what I will do is highlight and hit the wave tops as far as what some of the major changes are concerned. So I'll start with 6th grade. With this moving intermediate school into that K-5 matrix, again, not any changes in this respect from what the K-5 matrix was, but I will jump forward here and then show where the cell phone violation that I just recently showed is now included in the K6 matrix. So those are married up as far as the cell phone violation in the K6 matrix. Again, no major changes here with K5. So let me touch real quick as far as our 7th, 8th grade matrix. Again, this will be a new matrix for the 26-27 school year. Again, it'll be published not only in the student handbook, but there's probably about a 99% solution that's published in the document that you have in front of you this evening. One of the major ones is when we're addressing disruptive behavior. I know that teachers here at Anderson Community Schools have recently been trained in TBRI, where they have a little bit better understanding of addressing some of those brain development concerns that kids oftentimes bring into the classroom. And what you will find here is kind of a stratification when we're talking about disruptive behavior. The disruptive behavior doesn't really change per se as far as the behavior itself is concerned, but what does change is where does the behavior occur and what intervention are we putting in place in order to address the behavior. And you can see here where some of the classroom level disruptive behaviors that we talk about that occur with the teacher present in the classroom. You can see here where we've kind of addressed it as far as the matrix is concerned. However, that being said, in some instances, some of these infractions can get elevated quickly to the admin level, at which point the administrators, the deans, they will then make a determination regarding where they are at in the matrix based on the frequency of the infraction. And so that's where we've started with 7 and 8. And again, here you also see where the cell phone violation that was outlined earlier is now been embedded in the 7th and 8th grade disciplinary matrix. One of the other things that has really been driven by the high school and in talking with the junior high administration, what we have discovered, and I'm sure anybody that works with kids knows that when you have a lot of unstructured time, that's when we tend to have a propensity for making bad choices as far as behavior is concerned. Where we have an opportunity to really kind of tighten our shot group, so to speak, in terms of working with our kids, more so at the middle school and the high school where there's a lot of transition in between classes. We have an opportunity to really start raising the standard and expectation with kids in terms of what those passing periods look like, making sure that they're diligent about getting from point A to point B when they need to get there. As a result of that, we've also kind of built in what some of those unexcused tardies to class look like. Because what we have been finding with a lot of our kids, if they're late to class, that's when you start to run the risk of having greater policy violations because kids are out of the classroom. That supervision tends to be significantly decreased just by virtue of mass of kids in relationship to the ratio of adults providing that supervision. So what we've done here is we've added those unexcused tardies to class, but also too what we've done is we've stratified that out saying you have so many tardies and then you go on to a tardy contract with the administration. And then even after you're on a tardy contract, there's still some consequences that are discussed, and they're outlined here in the matrix as far as where you're at in terms of your unexcused tardies. Our task and purpose in doing that is to reduce the number of tardies that kids have to class, so that they're not only are they not violating that school policy, but it prohibits them from having a lot of unstructured time where they can violate other policies as well. And then as we get into the high school matrix, again, the cell phone policy violation, as I pointed out earlier itself, this has now been embedded in the disciplinary matrix. And same thing with unexcused tardies to class. Minimizing that time that kids are spending transitioning to class and holding them accountable, raising that standard and expectation so that we can minimize some of those additional infractions that oftentimes occur in between classes. I believe that is all I have as far as my part of the presentation is concerned. At this time, I yield the rest of my time to Madam President in terms of any questions that you, board members, or anybody in the community may have.
Okay. Yep, so what we're going to do is we have Mr. Landis here, and I was told that you would like to speak this evening about some of this. Please, we're going to start there. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to share some thoughts and experiences from the last 4 school days, maybe even a little bit prior to that. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Alan Landis, the proud principal of Anderson High School. And every year in our first week meetings with our students and at every opportunity after that, I remind them why they are at school. In fact, I phrase it like this, that when you step in the doors of Anderson High School every morning, you need to ask yourself one question: why am I here? And they all know the answer to that. I'm kind of sad that, no, there's an Anderson High School. Okay, they know. What's the answer to that? Why are you at Anderson High School every day? To learn. And they all know that. And we focus on that. And I mean it when I tell them that if they walk in the door and they ask themselves that question and it's something other than to learn, I ask them to take a step back and not enter. I want them to gather themselves, get the right mindset so that when they enter the doors, they're there to learn, and they're there only to learn. The fact is, we have a lot of good things in Anderson High School. Mr. Taylor was very eloquently addressed many of them. But we could take all of those things away, and Anderson High School still exists because its primary focus is it is a place of learning. Now, all those other things are great. We want everybody to be involved because they learn and grow in so many awesome ways when they get involved. But we are a place of learning. The rules and consequences in place in the discipline matrix, and I tell the students this every year as well, again, as often as I can, every single behavior addressed in the matrix is a behavior that gets in the way of their own learning or the learning of someone else. And if they are there to learn, that's why there are consequences to those behaviors, because those behaviors impede the learning. There has been no greater impediment to learning, probably in the history of education, than this silly thing right here. At least in my history. I'm going into my 37th year of education. I'm not caught up with you yet, Mr. Bookhart, but I'm getting there. And it's not often that I agree with the decisions that come out of the State House in Indianapolis, but I agree with this one. Let me tell you why. The first 4 days, now granted, we're in a honeymoon phase, I think, okay? It's all sunshine and rainbows for now. But I went into the cafeteria every day this week. And when I say I got emotional, I'm not exaggerating. I walked around the cafeteria. I did not see one single phone. But you know what I saw that I haven't seen in years and years and years and years and years?
Talking.
8 kids at a table talking to each other, having fun, telling stories. Is it louder at lunch? Yes. But we'll take it. It's a good loud. It's a very good loud. I mean, they're playing games. They're interacting, engaging with each other. And I'm not joking. We have not seen that in years. This time last year, you walk around, you have 8 kids at the table like zombies staring at their phones. Made me sad. That's not what school is about, right? They can learn from each other in engaging ways, and I love that. And I've talked to a lot of teachers this week. I haven't had to go to them. They came to me. I think I've a dozen teachers, and they all say the same thing. The kids are sitting in class, they're engaged, they're focused, and when there is downtime, like during success period right now, because we don't have anything in place yet for success period, those teachers said they came to me and wanted to play games. They wanted to have board races. They wanted to know if I had Uno cards. They're drawing. They're reading books. They're reading books. They're not on their phones. We have to keep that going. So again, we are in a honeymoon phase right now. I've been at this a long time. I think a lot of them are going to try to test the waters later on this week and next week, and I think we're going to see an uptick in confiscated phones today. Just so you know, we still don't have this in place, but we still have the old matrix in place, and we confiscated 21 phones today, okay, and they all picked them up at the end of the day. In a school of over 1,700 students, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, we're enrolling more and more every day. I think soon we're going to be around 1,750. Yeah, it's big. That's pretty good, 21 phones. But I think it's going to increase a little bit. But we have to have some teeth in this policy because learning is the #1 priority. And the consequences for this, I think they're very fair. I think they're equitable. I think they are harsh enough to get our point across. If you get the 5 times, that's not a cell phone issue. That's a defiance and subordination issue. And I was actually, Mr. Bookhart, thinking of you. I wasn't a Highland grad. I was a Madison Heights grad, but I have lots of students, friends and relatives that attended Highland. Your demerit system was legendary. Legendary. I'm just curious, what was the demerit policy for 5 instances of planned, willing defiance? I'm not sure you had that. I bet they were scared to get that far, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, we didn't get too many.
They wouldn't get that far. Yeah.
I had Mr. Bookhart as a teacher, and
You probably didn't get the one, did you, Mandy?
I had to stand up in the middle of the classroom one time
Not the
because I
middle.
spoke out of turn. I didn't make it to 2 demerits.
I bet you did not. So I'm standing here to ask you, approve of this policy this evening. It's a good policy, and we need it. I cannot wait to see the results of this. I truly believe that with the engagement increasing like it is, that it's going to increase work completion, it's going to increase grades, it's going to increase graduation rates, attendance rates, and it's going to increase the learning. So thank you very much.
Mr. Landis.
Yes.
What a nice surprise. Thank you for coming.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, we're laughing because I actually was out at Anderson High School today. I wanted to give him 3 or 4 days to get this all in place, but I wanted to go see for myself because I knew tonight I was voting on a policy, so I stopped by and talked with Mr. Landis. Impromptu, didn't ask permission to go, just bumped in
You're
on him.
welcome anytime.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And he said, hey, sit down, I want to talk to you about this. So I sat in his office, and he started telling me these stories. And I said, Mr. Landis, can you come to the board meeting tonight and tell the board and the public, like, how much this means and what's going on with kids interacting? And he goes, sure. So, thank you so much.
Well, thanks for the
We
impromptu
appreciate your enthusiasm, and we'll do whatever we can to support you and your staff.
Okay, thank you very much, all.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to public comments in regards to the matrices that were explained this evening. If any of you have any questions or comments or concerns for Mr. Bennell, now's your chance. Okay, Mr. Brown?
How everybody doing? Lindsey Brown, Anderson, Indiana. I just have a quick question, real simple. Who helped you work on this? You said you met with parents and teachers and, but from where? From what age groups, because we're spreading across the whole gambit here of Anderson Community School students, from elementary to high school students. And in some cases, I see it, a lot of this is very punitive, like kicking kids out real quickly. So I question that because they are our scholars, right? Every student is a scholar. And you only could be a scholar if you're in the classroom. And I love what the principal said, that, when you come to school, every student should know that you're coming to school to learn. That's number one goal, is to learn to get an education. But we all know that kids are kids too, and kids do make mistakes. Nobody is perfect, and you watch every child, a child will make a mistake eventually. And I don't want to have a child being penalized harshly with open 1, 2, 3 suspension, where it could just be a 1-day suspension, where you having it that, let's say somebody might not like that student and they can make it a 3-day suspension. It happens that way. But when can we put some things down to where it's more concrete to where it is on a first offense, let's say where it was bad aggressive language or something like that, and instead of being 1 to 3 days, it could be 1 day, just a cool off period, or you go to ISD or something like that. Especially because we do know a lot of kids do got bad potty mouths, and I think suspending a child for saying a couple bad words is a little pushing it. So I think there's a lot of great things in this, and I do like it a lot, but there's a lot of things in it that need to have some attention to it and need to look closely at it before a decision is made.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, yep. Sure.
Just the word placement, does that mean PCEA, or does that mean like physical placement, or what does that mean?
Yeah. Great question to ask. It can mean a variety of different things. So keep in mind that for the last 4 years, having helped to develop the matrix itself, right, I've removed the E word. I've removed the word expulsion because I know that Mr. Scheimer and I, having done the role of Director of Student Services, in the last 4 years, we haven't expelled a kid. Because when you use the word expulsion, in Indiana code, words have meaning, right? And when you're saying expulsion, that's the denial of all educational services based on, a series of events. So what we've done in the last 4 years is we haven't expelled any kid. Now what we've done is we have changed that placement, but that can mean a couple of different things. And that doesn't necessarily just apply to a student in the general education setting. You may very well be working with a student with a disability who, again, displays some behaviors, and there's processes in place to determine the impact of their disability on the behaviors, right? But in doing that, again, what I've always made a conscientious attempt at doing, and Ms. Seymour has done the same thing as our head of special education, is, we're also not in the business of expelling students with disabilities. But what we are doing is based on, again, circumstances, what is that student's best placement? What is that student's least restrictive environment? Because what we may have to recognize is that that student may not have that current skill that they need to be successful in that least restrictive environment, but that doesn't mean that we can't put them in one where they can't learn that skill. And so I speak to that more so from my special education background, but from a general education setting, again, there are kids in the general education setting that may be struggling with having the skills necessary to find success in that setting, but that doesn't mean that we throw them out and that we don't offer them some kind of education. What we do is we put forth a very conscientious effort to make sure that we find a placement, albeit what we hope for, at least what I hope for, is that it's a temporary placement so that we can develop that skill set so that that student can return to the general education that they're familiar with. And I think we're very lucky here at ACS is we have a lot of resources and a lot of tools by which we have a very broad array of what that general education setting looks like. Not only is it in any of our buildings, but we have an alternative education program for grades K through 4 at Anderson Elementary. I have a 5-6 alternative program at AIS. I have junior high and high school kids go out to Compass. I have our Anderson Online Academy where we can offer that. I think in talking with Misty Adams just today, there's entertaining the idea of starting up night school as we get into the school year for some of our high school kids. So when we talk placement, it's a matter of where can I put that kid where they can find the success that they desperately are looking for and do so on a temporary basis long enough for them to make it a teachable moment and a learning experience, but also to develop the skills that they need to thrive and succeed in that previous placement as well.
Is that still connected to the PCEA? Like they have to sign away rights before placement is made?
Yeah, so with the PCEA, and I know I've had some really good ongoing conversations with Mr. Scheimer about this. The thing that's nice about PCEAs, they're kind of quick, they're expedient, they get kids right where they need to be in a very short amount of time. The challenge that you run into with a PCEA is a probationary continued education agreement, right? Is really you're kind of pushing all of your chips in doing a PCEA as to where we're making accommodations, so to speak, knowing that in the event that you're doing a PCEA, you may very well have grounds to change a placement with an expulsion examiner, right? But with a PCEA, that's really a one last chance for a kiddo to find success in that current placement. Or in some instances, you do change the placement for a kiddo on a PCEA. The alternative to that, and I've never forced a parent to sign a probationary continued education agreement, and I don't think Mr. Scheimer has either. But PCEAs are nice to the alternative. The alternative is an expulsion examiner and having an expulsion hearing. And I say that words have meaning, but it's not that we would expel kids. But when you do a PCEA, there's a few advantages to that is with that probationary continued education agreement, that issue is resolved at the building level with that building administration where they can put those supports and necessary resources that that kiddo would need. And there's also a significant chance that that kid would remain in that current placement, right? versus when you go to an expulsion hearing, and it's very procedural if you look it up in Indiana code, right? So when you do an expulsion hearing, you're basing it much like you would any other legal hearing. However, there's no criminality to it, first of all, right? But what you're doing is you have an examiner who becomes the final arbiter in terms of what that student's placement will look like for any given amount of time, whether it be in 9 weeks, a semester, or the rest of the year. The challenge that you run into is, rather than working at it from a collaborative standpoint, you really are relying on the subject matter expertise or the subject matter expert who's running that meeting to determine where that student is going to be placed. And then in that instance, it almost takes control away from parents and other community members when they're working with that kid, as well as with the administration, versus you have and I'm also the expulsion examiner for the district as well. The other challenge that you run into is the length of time that student will spend in that new placement is also a final decision that's made by the expulsion examiner. The other challenge that you will run into is that with expulsion hearings, and when a determination is made by an expulsion examiner, in the state of Indiana, school boards have the opportunity and the right to determine that we will not hear appeals as far as a final determination being made by an expulsion examiner. Anderson Community Schools has a policy where they do not hear appeals that are outlined by an expulsion examiner. So there's very much a double-edged sword to PCEAs. There's both advantages and disadvantages. It all really kind of depends on the circumstances that you're working with. And I apologize, it's probably a very long and detailed description, but it can be complex when you're working with PCEAs. So, yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
Because we know when you look at stuff like this, men are a little more harsher on punishment than women.
Sure.
As well as there's some things that cultural differences look at things a little differently as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because one time, and I've seen it before, some kids' horseplay is play. It's not horseplay or violent horseplay. It's kids playing. Some people look at that as kids being physical or violent, right? So I would like to know the demographics of people that looked at that and worked with women as well.
So, yeah, so we had a handbook committee, which the demographics of it was pretty diverse. Black, brown, white faces as far as their participation in the committee, males and females both. What was interesting is that I'm sorry? I don't have that information. I can talk to you about it more offline if you like, but what I'm wanting you to understand is that it was a pretty diverse group that provided a great deal of input. And not only was it just members of the committee, but I had heard some other parents who have been here several times that have outlined what their concerns are. And those concerns were taken into consideration. The part that may be kind of uncomfortable is that I also heard from parents who had kids in the corporation, didn't have kids in the corporation. I also heard from parents whose kids have been subject to the disciplinary issues and the disciplinary matrix in this corporation. I also heard from some parents that had not had their children disciplined because they too have a vote, they have a voice. Okay, so it was a very comprehensive approach. I tried to be very methodical in terms of collecting all the data, all the empirical evidence from a lot of different sources. So when I say handbook committee, that was just one component of it. There was a lot of public input that I'd taken. I'd also taken input and guidance from district leadership as well in order to make it pretty comprehensive and robust. To address your other concern, where I also do things slightly different is if I'm the guy that's writing a PCEA, that's only because I've already negotiated a settlement with the parent in terms of not wanting to conduct an expulsion hearing. I will never deny a parent the opportunity to have an expulsion hearing. I will never deny them the opportunity to be heard. But again, they have to be very careful about when they come into an expulsion hearing, knowing that, and again, I don't make those rules. Those rules are clearly outlined in Indiana code in terms of there being an expulsion examiner and in an expulsion hearing. To the very point that you made, sir, is the fact that I'm not expected to have very much knowledge of the student so that I can remain in objective and impartial and base my decisions on the facts of the case and nothing else. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's unheard of in our legal system where you deal with when you have a bench trial. Is that not a judge who may be familiar with the nuances of the case? Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 And so because of their lack of knowledge of a process or a situation, that's when you guys, in some cases, utilize your knowledge of a process and outmaneuver a parent when a parent is stuck in a bad situation with their child. Mm-hmm. And so that's why you can't say that this is almost like a judicial system when it's not, when it's more almost like a democracy. I mean, dictatorship, because you're making that call.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say, and I appreciate everything that you had to say, Lindsay, because I think it's important. We are getting a little bit off of what we're here to discuss, though, in regards to the matrix. So I'm going to ask Lindsay if you would like to speak with Mr. Bonnell Moore about what your concerns are. Please go to him after the meeting, and you guys can set something up. Is that fair? Okay.
Yes, we have. So one of the major metrics that we looked at, and I know that Mr. Scheimer has made mention of this on several occasions, and this is a pretty major metric, and I think it's important to continue to discuss it, is I use the word recidivism for lack of a better word because I don't know how else to describe it. But when you have kids that violate school policy to the extent that they are suspended from school, the opportunity or the chances of them reoffending, I guess, so to speak, and them violating school policy further drops 60%, if I'm not mistaken, which then means that if I've had a student that has been suspended the first time, there's only a 40% chance that they will commit further policy violations that would constitute them being suspended a second time, which that number then I also believes decreases by half as well, to where when you're dealing with a student that is a second-time offender going into a third-time offense.
So, in other words now, since you picked that part of it up, so is the disciplinary, all the discipline depends on the violation. Is it progressive? Is it progressive? Whereas first time offense and on and on and on, I'm gonna let you go for 2 days and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
And explaining, of course, and a lot of times as well, some kids, and I think you kind of mentioned it, some kids don't understand what they did
Mm-hmm.
and why they did it. And in the process, you have to give them an opportunity to say, well, who was involved? How did you understand this and all that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because, you know, when you're dealing, sometimes if the kids don't know, they don't know and they continue to do things, you have to find out why.
Sure.
You have to find out why, and you have to deal with this. And so basically, you look at behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And those behaviors have a pattern and have algorithms as well that you should be looking at to make sure that you can deal with these different types of algorithms. Every kid is not the same.
Sure.
Every kid is not the same.
Sure. And to answer your question, in looking at this, unless I have a misunderstanding of what progressive means, I think that you will find that there is an increase in consequences in the event that you violate the offense further. Am I misunderstanding what progressive means? Okay. Sir. So we had one meeting at Sherman Street to specifically discuss the cell phone policy. And then Myron, Amy, I think you guys were on the handbook committee. I don't know how many times you guys met because it was earlier this summer. And then Mr. Scheimer, I would presume to believe, not counting what our email correspondence has been, but I would believe that committee probably met no less than 2, maybe 3 times to discuss and refine what those policies were going to look like. Mind you, as well, I want to be very clear on this. Set aside the 7th and 8th grade matrix, anything that's highlighted in K6 and 912 is new. So while I want to bring your attention to what's new as far as cell phones and unexcused tardies, what's not highlighted has been in the matrix for at least the last 4 years. So when you're looking at what's not highlighted, that has not changed with the committee or with district leadership in at least the last 4 years. Yes. Yes. Well, I do, and I do, and the thing is, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. And I respect that, and I say this, I would rather it be firm, fair, and consistent now than having to learn that lesson when they turn 18. Because right now, it's a teachable moment, a learning experience, okay? You can always bounce back from whatever it is that we do. In the state of Indiana, there isn't any reason why I need to expel a kid for more than 365 days except for one occurrence, and that's if you bring a firearm to school. Everything else can be worked around. Unfortunately, real life doesn't always work that way. I want those life lessons to be learned now in a much gentler environment than learning that lesson when they're 18 or older. Why would a kid bring a firearm to school? Any number of reasons. I won't get into them tonight. I don't want to get too far off track. But I've seen kids bring firearms for a lot of different reasons. Usually it's to inflict bodily harm.
Well, the deal is
Mhm.
maybe he's being picked on. And if the system is not a system that would court that kid's complaint to the point down there and get it settled before it gets to that point, what you try to do when those problems occur, you look at them and say,
I'm gonna say something. I want to say something. I'm going to say something. I'm not gonna be
done to the school, you're probably being threatened or you're being intimidated or you're being belittled. You have 4 kids that come in with clothing that the other kids do not have, and they tease the kid. I've seen that. You can tease an adult, tease to the point that they say, I can't take any more of this. But you have to have an open system where this kid can voice or feel welcome, that he can discuss these things so that you can head them off. It's nice to have these disciplines, yes, but why not have something in that system where you can head these things off?
Madam President?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
I just want to say one thing. I agree with Mr. Bunnell. We as adults have boundaries. We have rules that we all live by and that we learn to, or we are in the prison system. And children should also learn to abide by the rules and to the boundaries of which they are bound. And for me, I agree with that. Like Mr. Landis said, he has seen really good things happening and that there be conversation. As far as these, the rules up here of when they break the rules, they have been softened, and our committee did listen to parents who did talk, and they did soften those. So I just want to say thank you. It's a hard decision to make, but we all need to learn to abide by boundaries and parameters. You're up.
Yeah, Mary, please. Go ahead.
First, I don't want to minimize, though, the fact that this language is still, we're talking about offenders, and if you look up offender registry, that's not a registry of kids who brought their cell phone to school. There's language that we're using that does parallel the prison system. And when you're saying people who don't learn to follow the rules end up in the prison system, statistics will tell you.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
In a lot of different ways, and I don't want that to start when these kids are in kindergarten.
I didn't say that, and I am not gonna let that go. I'm sick and tired of people taking
Sure.
stepping all over me.
One of the things I would like to know, when I heard Taylor tell about his experiences, and he was a great band director for my kids, the only thing that worried me is he said, well, you have to stay involved. There are parents and concerns for staying involved. These kids are still not getting to have a fair shake or a good experience in the schools. So what I would like to know from you, because I see this like road to violence or pathway to violence, which is another thing that kind of scares me a little bit. How we're thinking about kids. And yes, there are safety threats.
Yep.
But this is all things that we're kind of bundling into this idea that instead of dealing with children, we're dealing with future offenders, and that worries me. So what I would like to know from you, because you said that teachers are the green coffee analogy, which I think is great, is how are you going to help train teachers and also hold them to some standard of equitability using this matrix? Because if every student is an equitable matrix, Joanne just brought up a thing about this is equitable, and I think I would like to believe, right?
Sure.
But how are you going to help teachers, who should also be using TPRI with fidelity, to also be looking at the matrix and using it with fidelity and equity? That's
Yeah, so to address, like the one slide there that you see there, that's from the Indiana Department of Homeland Security, which, and that's one of the things that we've been tasked with doing, which, and Mary, I think you can appreciate this. The challenge that I run into at my level when I'm dealing with discipline, I deal with adults. Okay, my building administrators, my classroom teachers, they're the ones that really do that active engagement with students, right? So I don't want to give you the impression that like when I use that legalized language that it's what's used when we're addressing students. That's not the case. Building level administrators do a very nice job, and when I was a building level administrator, that's how I would speak to kids as well. I would soften that language, but I find that nowadays I have to use very direct language in order for other key stakeholders to understand the gravity of the situation that we are dealing with. Because I know that when we get to the point of dealing with a probationary continued education agreement or dealing with an expulsion hearing and talking about that data, unfortunately, there's a distinct possibility that we've exhausted all other avenues in order to prevent and to mitigate reaching that point. And at that point, that's where it requires a great deal more of adult intervention and adult involvement in order to rectify the situation. Because back to Mr. Brown's point earlier, how do I separate that out between PCEAs and, well, the only reason that I offer PCEAs at my level is because the parent has requested the expulsion hearing, okay, rather than signing off on the PCEA. That being said, stepping back into this role, I've also afforded my building level administrators the opportunity to offer PCEAs at their level with the intent of mitigating that risk of further disciplinary action. So that agreement is actually taking place as kind of a boots on ground approach where those parents are able to engage those building administrators to help deconflict and mitigate that future risk of violations.
Madam President?
Yes. I apologize, and I'll yield the rest of my time.
Yes.
We've heard a lot of really good comments tonight. Appreciate Mr. Taylor and all his comments. Mr. Landis, thank you. You've both had very long days today, so thank you. We've also heard some really good comments from the public regarding really important issues to take into consideration in the ongoing implementation of the matrix, but I believe tonight, I'm going to call for question.
Okay.
And I would like the board to seriously consider, and Mr. Bunnell, working with a group moving forward on some ideas for implementation ideas. Obviously, this is the teachers, the principals, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Bunnell's, and the board's decision, but we've heard some good public input. This is a fluid document. It can be changed in the future,
Yes,
but I'd
ma'am.
like to see us have a starting place to work, and let's work through some of the kinks, so I'm going to call for question on the matrix.
Okay, so I call for a motion in regards to voting on the matrices that have been discussed tonight.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. By roll call vote, Mr. Chamberlain?
Aye.
I myself, Mrs. Renz?
Aye.
Mrs. Collette?
Aye.
Mr. Bookhart?
Aye.
Mrs. Green?
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it. All right, next, it looks like we have adult meal prices.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of the school board. This is one of these things that the state makes us do every year. They don't give us a choice. They tell us what prices we can charge for adult lunches and adult breakfasts. It's not a price we can set. They tell us what we can set. And then they make you vote on it. It's one of those strange things that you really don't have a choice. So this year, our adult lunch price is $5.35, and our adult breakfast price is $3.05. Now, we did round the lunch price up 3 cents to make it 5 cents for those that have cash. They don't have to walk around with pennies. The adult breakfast price just ended up being $3.05. So I would ask the board to approve adult lunch prices at $5.35 and breakfast price at $3.05 as dictated to us by the state.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to approve the meal prices for our adults.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All right, questions, comments from the board? Okay, by roll call, Mrs. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Bookhart? Aye. Mrs. Collette?
Aye.
Mrs. Renz?
Aye.
I myself, Mr. Chamberlain?
Aye.
All right, ayes have it. Okay, is there any other business before the board that would like to be brought up this evening? No? Okay.
Mandy, I'd like to say something, please.
Okay.
The last time we had a meeting here, your kid could have 4 cell phone violations and be expelled from school. Now, how ridiculous is that? I'm glad they mentioned a couple of times that this matrix we have right now is fluid, and we need continued input from you guys here because being in the classroom, having to deal with these kids there, you know, it does move. I mean, there'll be some kids I would give a chance. I give 2 or 3 chances before I kick them out of class. There's some kids, the first time they messed up, they're gone. And they have to be dealt with on an individual basis. But we've gone now from the last board meeting to 4 cell phone violations, you're expelled. 10 days pending expulsion. That could have been a valedictorian. Had 4 cell phone violations, expelled from school because of this thing right here. But I think you guys need to keep an eye on it, hold them accountable to what the matrices are, and the situation where there's 1 to 3 day suspension, I think that's pretty good. But they need to be able to justify that. So it is a work in progress. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, everyone. Safe travels home. Meeting adjourned.